Appamada and its programs are supported by your generosity, and your generosity and support makes such a difference. You can find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org. Thank you.
I guess I'll start with good morning to everyone again. And my talk today is going to be on Tori Enji's chant, the Bodhisattva Vow. And it's something that we chant frequently here, once a month anyway, on one Wednesday evening a month. And then also on different occasions, sometimes in intensives and sometimes at celebrations of life or memorials, we'll chant it. And in other temples, they often chant it. So I'd like to start with what I like to do a lot of times with these kinds of chants is look at the author, look at their life. Where do they come from? What are they thinking about? So that's what I would like to do, is kind of explore the author a little bit, and then we'll take a look at the work itself. So the background. So Tori Enji, he was born on May 8th, 1721, and died April 10th, 1792. So he was an eminent Japanese Zen monk. He was an author, and as typical of that, a lot of these guys, they're really talented. He was a painter and a calligrapher as well. He was also the chief disciple and Dharma heir of the famous Japanese Rinzai master, Hakin Ekaku, who he was alive from 1685 to 1769. And he was most famous probably for reviving the Rinzai school in the 18th century Japan. So Tori Enji is known as the author of an influential text on Zen practice called the Inexhaustible Lamp of Zen, the Shuman Lu Jinto Ron, which was his master work, and it presents the comprehensive system of Rinzai Zen, all the ins and outs of it, as it existed at the time of Hakin. So Tori was born in Kasaki in Shinga Prefecture. He was 5 years old when he met the respected Zen master Kogetsu Sensei, and this inspired him so much that by the age of 9, he went to study at the local monastery. By the age of 17, he went to Daikoji in Kyoshu, where he was ordained as a Buddhist monk by this same fellow, the Kogetsu Sensei. And under his direction, Tori achieved his first Kenjo Experience. Now, Kenjo Experience, in case you're not familiar with that, is an enlightenment experience. And it was interesting, in doing my research on these Rinzai guys, they talk more so about the Kenzo enlightenment experiences than we ever seem to talk about in Soto Zen. We don't emphasize that. So this was kind of interesting. It talks about different levels of Kenzo, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, just kind of an interesting perspective that they have. So after this experience, Tori sets out on a pilgrimage, and he goes to various Japanese monasteries. And then in 1743, his prior teacher Kogetsu suggests that he should visit this temple Shoin-ji, where Tori Enji meets the great Rinzai master Hakin Ekaku, and he studies with him. So I want to interrupt and talk a little bit about Hakin so people know who that is, who he's studying under. So Hakin was born in 1686 and he died in 1769, but he was one of the most influential figures in Japanese Zen Buddhism. He's regarded as he's the first person that started to revive the Rinzai tradition, the school, as it had become completely stagnant. It was on its deathbed. And so he brought it back to life and refocused things onto these traditionally rigorous training methods, including meditation and koan practice. So Hakeem is also kind of famous with this tale that a lot of us have heard about it. So I think it's one of those koans, but I don't know if it's koans, it's just a story. Anyway, it's called Is That So? And the story is that Hakeem was a priest in this town, and or a monk, I should say, and he, this beautiful young woman had become pregnant, and their parents were after, who's the father, who's the father, who's the father, and she refused to answer. And finally she coughs out, oh, it was Hakeem, the monk. And so the parents take the girl, and they go to the monastery, and they're yelling at him, and they're furious with him, and say, okay, you're the father, you need to take care of the child. So when the child was born, they brought the child and said, it's yours. And Hakeem, when he heard all this, said, is that so? And so when they brought the child, he accepted the child and took care of it. For about a year later, the young girl couldn't take it anymore because she lied. And she confesses to her parents that it was actually this young man that worked in the fish market. And so the parents are going, oh my goodness, we've ruined the reputation of this monk. Oh well, he'd taken really good care of her. He did his alms, going out and begging, and the neighbors would give him milk, and so he was took care of her all right. But it was tough. So the family goes back to the monk and says, please forgive us. We made this mistake, and give us the child, Jung. And so they took the child back, and he'd been taking care of her for a year. Anyway, it's the same, this again, he says, is that so? That was his only response. So pretty stoic kind of guy. So anyway, so that, he also says, is that so? It's good to hear that this baby is her father. So he just smiles. So that's Hakeem. So that was the teacher of Tori Enji. So getting back to Tori, so he studies with Hakeem until the time he receives a message from his mother, who's become gravely ill. And so he leaves the monastery, Tori leaves the monastery, and takes care of his mother for about 2 years when she passes away. And then after that, he goes to a small hermitage in Kyoto, and then he starts this very rigorous ascetic training. And he has this other really deep experience of realization. And because he had been practicing in cold conditions, he develops tuberculosis. I don't know what's the connection between cold and tuberculosis. It confused me, but at any rate, that's what my source said. Anyway, he was very ill himself, and so he thought he might not survive. And so he decided, well, I'm going to write this book on the Rinzai school and on the tradition, so that I can leave that. That will be what I contribute. And so he worked on it for 2 or 3 years, and it was a 500-page book. It was complete. And by the end of the time he'd finished it, his health had improved considerably. So he was 30 by then. He sent a copy a text to Hakeem, and Hakeem wrote back saying, it's an excellent introduction to Zen practice, and the work presents the Zen path according to the Rinzai tradition of Hakeem's time. It also attempted to bring the unity of all the Buddhist schools together within this tome, and also attempts to reconcile Zen Buddhism with Confucianism, Shintoism, and Taoism. So then Tori launches into a career of teaching for about 40 years. He receives Hakeem's robe, and then he becomes, he's become officially the Dharma heir. And he worked along Hakim to develop a curriculum, koan study curriculum, which remains in use today. After Hakim's death, Tori returns to Ryotakuji and a monastery, and then remained there for 20 years, overseeing its reconstruction, a restoration. And then at the end of his life, he returns to his homeland, and where he died in 1792. So that's Tori's life. I wanted to look too at this major work that he did, the Inexhaustible Lamp of Zen. The interesting thing about that particular, but I'll get to that. So he writes this book, and it's in the preface, it talks about how each school has its particular characteristics, and it stresses particular points. And so for the Zen school, which is the Rinzai Zen school, the Zen school practitioners of the way, everybody, monks and laymen alike, need to know what these are. And so according to the Lankavatara Sutra, what one should do is take the heart of the Buddha's teachings as the principle, and the gateless gate as the Dharma gate. So that's the basis of it. And they don't, they depend not just on one doctrine, but on one scripture, but a series of things, for everything from the Tripitaka. So there is a little poem that was attributed to Bodhidharma about this school. And it says, but our school is based on a special transmission outside the teachings, not depending on the written word, directly pointing to the human heart, seeing into its nature and becoming Buddha. It goes on to say, comes from the book, our school does not depend on any scripture. There's only the transmission of the heart seal from one to another, from the Buddha to a Buddha, to a patriarch, like pouring water from one vessel into another. The transmission from heart to heart. For this reason, it would be better to call our school the Buddha Heart School rather than the Zen School. So I thought this was really interesting to have this in there. This is what Tori was writing about. This is the way he looked at his teaching. The Buddha heart is of the essence here. So further, it's been said that if you understand the heart of the teachings, the inexhaustible lamp Buddha, the words at this moment, here and now, are no other than the heart. And the heart is no other than Buddha. In other words, the heart of the Buddha's teachings is the Buddha heart. So again, this emphasis on the heart. Okay, so at the same time that there's the heart is the most important, and that there are many scriptures that they use, they also say that from a broader point of view, you can use fine words or coarse words to talk about it. So you can use a nursery rhyme, you can sing it, you can do anything. But of course, you can also talk about it from a scientific or philosophical view. But the importance is the heart, and also the reason for taking the gateless gate is the Dharma gate. So that's their emphasis, the heart and the gateless gate and the Dharma gate. So the second thing that's really important about this, about knowing about this guy, Tori, is that he chose the title of this book, The Inexhaustible Lamp, because it comes from Vimalakirti, the Vimalakirti Sutra, and this is in the chapter of the Bodhisattva chapter. And there Vimalakirti is telling everyone, the Buddha, he's telling all these creatures that have come from all around, and all the different monks and all the different supernatural people, the monks and the nuns and everybody, there are thousands in his room, and he's saying this, that Inexhaustible light can be likened to a single lamp kindling thousands of lamps. All dark regions are illuminated, and yet the light is not exhausted. In the same way, a single bodhisattva leads hundreds of thousands of sentient beings to liberation, inciting them to arouse the heart's aspiration towards incomparable supreme enlightenment. And this activity of his is also inexhaustible. So it signifies again the lamp of the Buddha heart, kindling thousands of lamps, the lamps kindling one another, and hearts transmitting the heart seal from one to another without limit, illuminating the boundless Dharmakaya, or the qualities of the Buddha of wisdom, compassion, patience, and fortitude. So, just in this, Master Tori set a standard for trainees of later generations. And since his title fully expresses the essence, his preface must be carefully read, according to what he writes in the preface. So, to move on, I want to talk about the Bodhisattva Vow. And as you guys know, in our old chant book, we have 2 Bodhisattva Vows. And one is the one we chant Monday through Friday, every morning. Beings are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. So this is not the one that Tori wrote, but this is our vow, right? As some of the members here. The vow is considered not specific rules to follow and to check off, because they're impossible to obtain, right? To free all beings is quite a task. We probably won't do that in a lifetime, but it's more a guide. It's an orientation, right? That's what that vow is for. And it's just like celestial bodies assist a mariner in navigation. Oh, we go this way. This vow serves as a guide to set that trajectory for us towards saving and liberating all sentient beings, including ourselves. So we know what we're aiming at, and we aim towards, and we do the best we can. And also with this vow, we're choosing, by having a vow such as this, we choose the vow as opposed to just allowing our karma to drag us around hither and thither, following that around. On the other hand, the Bodhisattva Vow, which Tori Enji wrote, is something altogether different. As I said, we read this frequently. There are many translations of this chant, and I chose one that was translated by Robert Aiken, who's from the Honolulu Diamonds Sangha. So what I would like to do with this, as always, I'd like to just have us read this and just try to experience the words. Just listen to it. Let it wash over you, and don't try to capture meaning. Try to figure out what it means as it goes along. Just what we want is what's your experience of it. So that's the focus. Do you notice? I'm having this tension in my chest, or I'm feeling more expansive, or I have this certain thought come up about this. Oh, this is unpleasant, or this is pleasant. That kind of thing, as opposed to, oh, this means that. This is what he's talking about, because we'll talk about that later. So, what I thought I would do is I'll read it once and then ask somebody else to volunteer to read it.
Laurie, would you like me to share the screen with this?
Yeah, this is a good time for that. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning it, because I'd have forgot. I'll wait for you to get it up. Oh, and you guys would probably like it too. Okay. I think I've been talking really fast. Am I talking fast? Okay. Yeah, I got 2 pages, yeah. I thought it would make it too small if I. Okay. Oh, okay. So I'll read it first and then I'll read it another time. Okay. I am only a simple disciple, but I offer these respectful words. When I regard the true nature of the many Dharmas, I find them all to be sacred forms of the Tathagata's never-failing essence. Each particle of matter, each moment, is no other than the Tathagata's inexpressible radiance. With this realization, our virtuous ancestors, with compassionate minds and hearts, gave tender care to beasts and birds. Among us, in our daily lives, who is not reverently grateful for the protections of life, food, drink, and clothing? Though they are inanimate things, they are nevertheless the warm flesh and blood, the merciful incarnations of Buddha. All the more we can be especially sympathetic and affectionate with foolish people, particularly with someone who becomes a sworn enemy and persecutes us with abusive language. That very abuse conveys the Buddha's boundless loving kindness. It is a compassionate device to liberate us entirely from the mean-spirited delusions we have built up with our wrongful conduct from the beginningless past. With our open response to such abuse, we completely relinquish ourselves, and the most profound and pure faith arises. At the peak of each thought, a lotus flower opens, and on each flower there is revealed a Buddha. Everywhere in the Pure Land, in its beauty, we see fully the Tathagata's radiant light right where we are. May we retain this mind and extend it throughout the world so that we and all beings become mature in Buddha's wisdom. Okay, would somebody else like to read it? Would somebody online like to read it? Okay, Susan.
Bodhisattva Vow. I am only a simple disciple, but I offer these respectful words. When I regard the true nature of the many Dharmas, I find them all to be sacred forms of the Tathagata's never-failing essence. Each particle of matter, each moment is no other than the Tathagata's inexpressible radiance. With this realization, our virtuous ancestors with compassionate minds and hearts gave tender care to beasts and birds. Among us, in our own daily lives, who is not reverently grateful for the protections of life, food, drink, and clothing? Though they are inanimate things, they are nonetheless the warm flesh and blood, the merciful incarnations of Buddha. All the more we can be especially sympathetic and affectionate with foolish people, particularly with someone who becomes a sworn enemy and persecutes us with abusive language. That very abuse conveys the Buddha's boundless, loving kindness. It is a compassionate device to liberate us entirely from the mean-spirited delusions we have built up with our wrongful conduct from the beginningless past. With our open response to such abuse, we completely relinquish ourselves, and the most profound and pure faith arises. At the peak of each thought, a lotus flower opens, and on each flower there is revealed a Buddha. Everywhere is the Pure Land in its beauty. We see fully the Tathagata's radiant light right where we are. May we retain this mind and extend it throughout the world so that we and all beings become mature in Buddha's wisdom.
Thank you. So, I guess my question is, of any and all of you, is did anything come up when you read that? Any sensations, any images, any thoughts, feelings that might accompany the sensations? Yeah.
For the last two sitting periods, I've been looking at the words Dharma talk and thinking about how Dharma talk is not Dharma. And your talk was perfect in the sense of talking about what Dharma is as opposed to what Dharma talk is. And then I thought about the koan that I've been working on about Buddha holding up the flower and how that was such a perfect Dharma talk. And then there's this line here that's so perfect. On each flower there is revealed the Buddha. And I actually was thinking about he was holding up Buddha when he held up the flower. I mean, that was so great. And then you're telling the Hakim story.
Yeah.
And this line here, persecutes us with abusive language, was exactly what Hakim did in terms of turning toward it and seeing that as a Dharma gate. And that's so beautiful, that, you know, that connection.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to include it.
I just love that. So this is perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
What came up for me, I guess I was trying to feel, sense into what was being conveyed just underneath the language, and I seemed to get gratitude first, and then compassion / acceptance or openness.
Yeah.
So the first part seems to be gratitude for the protections of life, as it says.
Yeah.
Just a real deep sense of gratitude, and then inside of that, then when there's others that we can easily imagine to persecute or mock or belittle us, then there's just this opening, which is compassion and acceptance for that. That's what
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and it's Kim was saying too that Hakeem is a perfect example of that. I mean, here he is being accused of fathering a child. You know, and he's just really calm about it. Oh, is that right? Okay. And then they take it away from him again. Oh, is that right? So, I don't know.
Do you think, is that so? Was a question or a statement?
Yeah, I think it was more a statement, actually.
Yeah, I take it that way.
Like, let it be so,
It's
something
like
like that.
rhetorical.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Let it be so.
If that's what
Laurie, I was going to say something. Hello?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I found it very moving. And there was such kindness in the whole approach. And I loved the portraying of when bad actors are in our lives, and that it's a device for us, a compassionate device for us to respond, I guess, kind of like Hakeem did when he was presented with that kind of treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute, more about that. I mean, it's really radical. It's really radical for us human beings to do that. Oftentimes we want to We want to respond in kind.
Yeah, and then the reassurance to me, this is what stood out to me, is everywhere is the pure land and its beauty. We see fully the Tathagata's radiant light right where we are. Like, you don't have to move, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to think anything, it's right where you are.
That's right. And I wanted to, that's written about in, I'm being obnoxious as far as Vimalakirti, but his first talk in the beginning of that sutra is precisely that, is he says the Pure Land is everywhere, you can see it. And some people are saying, well, we can't see it. And then, zoom, you know, he does this whatever magic, and then they see, oh yes, it's all the Buddha land. And it's there all the time, but people don't see it. And so Shariputra, of course, who always kind of plays the fall guy or whatever, he says, well, why is it that I don't ever see it? I never see the Pure Land. And so they're going, well, it's your mind. Your mind is defiled, that's why you don't see it. So it's the same sort of thing here. You know, it's the clarity of mind. I just love that. Okay, so any other comments or anything? Okay, we'll go on. So I kind of like to talk about.
Excuse me, sorry. So
Yeah.
one of the participants asked if there was another way to use the other camera so we could see the other people. We are only seeing you now, Laurie. We're not seeing the other folks.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that would be nice. We'll just have our
How's that?
director here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director.
Okay, so so I thought we'd talk about the themes, and we kind of touched on them already. The first one being, not first and foremost, but just one of them, is there's this discussion, and you're alluding to this too, you're stating this, the sacredness of all dharmas, of all phenomena, even abuse. It's all sacred. It's all the Pure Land, all of it. So that's the first thing. And then everything offers an opportunity to open to the Dharma. So life as it is, by relinquishing yourselves. And that's the key. It's being able to surrender to what is, surrender to life as it is, no matter what it is. And as I say, it's not an easy thing to do. But if one does do that, then this profound and pure faith arises. I think that's really interesting. There's a choice of words of pure faith arises. It's like when you open yourself up, you're being totally vulnerable, right? And so to be able to do that, presumably you've got to have a faith, you know, that something is going to, that it'll be okay. And then in that, there is the Pure Land. It is present. And then to extend this mind, when one is able to open in this way, it has an impact. Everything we do has an impact on everybody else, right? And so that has an impact on anyone that might be watching or the other person. It has an impact. So in this way, you're extending it everywhere. So all beings can share in the realization of the Dharma just by that one action. You have opened the gate for other people to see and to be a part of. So in opposition to that, we have the ordinary response, which is, you might have immediate thoughts of, how am I going to get back at this person, or I'm going to hit them back with a comment, say something just to make them be quiet, or show your smarts and saying something back, or, anger begs for anger, and so that's what we respond with often. But again, what if we were able to wait just a moment, find that gap we're always talking about, turn toward our pain and anger and just witness it for a moment, and then the surrendering is perhaps a possibility. We can surrender into what we're thinking and feeling without acting. Can we do that? There was an article about this particular chant. And Susan Murphy-Roshi from Zen Open Circle was writing about it. And she said, spoke of such occasions, and that we're talking about here with anger, being really angry at somebody being abusive and you're being angry back, that on such occasions, that access to it brings an access to a deep confidence, again, this trust, this faith in the nature of reality. That opens up when we give ourselves away, instead of defending ourselves, and discover who we are at such a moment. Isn't that intriguing? Who are we in that moment? To be an act of kindness in this situation approaches sainthood. I mean, who can do that, right? But it may be worth approaching just to see how far we can go to meet such a challenge. Can we do that? And that's anyone's own question, right? And she also says, when you let the fury, someone else's, or our own fury, move straight through, and there's no residue to it, it can result in an overflowing of compassion and love. Just, you don't hold on to it, but it just, and then compassion and love can arise. So, and an instance in when one might experience this, and maybe you have experienced it, we'll find out. I'll ask you. And when someone has gotten really angry with you, have you ever just gotten quiet? You just be quiet instead of launching out. Just be quiet. And then you may be concerned about the other person, particularly if it's somebody that you really care about. You're having an argument about something that's a heated argument, and all of a sudden you're quiet and you realize, oh, this person is really hurting over this situation. So it just changes the whole thing. It changes it instead of when we try to lash out. So, so then, can we see this? Can we even entertain the idea that these situations, the next time something like this occurs, to say, just to take a pause and think about that. Is this the Tathagata liberating me from offering me the opportunity to liberate myself from a blind tendency of just, yeah. So then the question is, how can we do this actually in our own practice? And so I'm interested if anybody has ever had experiences with this, either finding a gap or being quiet or that kind of thing, or have you just mainly have that tendency, normal human tendency, just to shove it right back. Darcy, is that Darcy?
Mm-hmm.
Darcy.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
So, yeah, I was wondering how to weave this in, but I had a recent experience of someone getting very, very, very unreasonably upset with me. And my response, and I'm trying to weave this into me because I tend to not lash out. That's how I usually do. And it hasn't been always working, But so this time I really, sat with it and worked with it and wrote this person a letter that I thought was very appropriate, And but I did name the fact that the outburst, the yelling, the angry words were hurtful. I did say that, but I also explained that it makes me want to pull away when what I really want is, to connect and some other things. And I guess what I want to say is, it didn't have the intended result. She got even more irate. And this practice is an ongoing thing, you know. Like, I'm like so frustrated. I think, okay, I did it, and you know, and that it doesn't mean that's going to take care of the problem. It just means then you have to do it again and again and again. And then you also have to practice it towards yourself, because you feel like just, you know, directing some of it inwards, and you have to be quiet about that too, and not be reactive, you know, like, you know, I should be able to fix this, or I should be better than that, or, you know. So then that, and it's just it is a practice. It's just an ongoing thing, and I think it's different for every person. And it's interesting that you brought this up today, because I've been looking at it and really trying to figure out how to live my vow in a way that works for me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the echo. This is Darcy. I wonder. This is terrible.
What can we?
That's okay. Let me just say my question, because it's not going to last long, I think. I wonder if, like, in the context you're describing, what the "let it be so" remark, like how that works, or what form it takes, or the, like, so whatever the question was he asked, that I translated to myself as "let it be so," like in the face of that. Is that so?
Is it so?
Is it so? Yeah. Like, I don't know if that's not with the intent to be helpful, but just thinking about the whole dynamic.
Yeah. I think it seems like with that, it's such the comment is so, is that so? It's not, you're not defending, you're not attacking, you're just acknowledging what somebody has said.
Like, people's actions and words create things.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so it's like, all right, is that so? And so maybe it is more of a question, like, not it is so, but it might be so, it might not be so.
Well, that's
No, it's a demonstration of not taking a position.
it's
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not knowing.
He's not getting snagged either way. He's acknowledging that he's heard them.
That's primarily what he's doing.
Okay.
I hear you. And sometimes, Darcy, you still there? Sometimes that's all we can do. Some people are just going to be mad no matter what our reaction is to it. You know, sometimes it's not, you know, I don't think this is about trying to get rid of somebody else's anger or trying to calm that down, but rather how do we stay where we are and not push back, you know?
Without
That's my
conditioned
opinion.
reactions.
That's right.
Yeah. David, were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, I think I can relate my way into this, and perhaps others could too. We've all had the experience where we're driving. There's nothing like getting a car right out of the road to like reinforce these ego boundaries. So we've all had the experience of someone, well, I have, like yelling at us or flipping us off or throwing aggression our way from a vehicle. And there's nothing like that just lights a fire within me. I get mad and I want to react on my own. But have you ever, like occasionally I've been like in a real serene, relaxed kind of place driving, and I'm not aware that somebody thinks I'm going too slow, or they're taking some issue with the way I'm driving, and they pass me and their like mouth is moving and their face is purple, and I have this bemused curiosity with it, and I'm just too grounded to take the bait, and it transforms the whole situation. And I feel like first I'm like a little surprised, then I'm curious, And then I feel compassion. It's like this person is like having a spasm in their car, and like it feels like, oh, poor, wow, what a day you're having. Like, and so that makes me think of this. It's like we have to like take a position that we are a self-contained ego that needs to be defended before any of this else happens. If we don't take that position, then we can just say, "Is that so?" You know. And so, but that's the thing, is not taking the position.
Jeanette?
Hi, I wanted to apologize for being off video. I just can't stop sneezing. So I'm wondering if there's a way to take ethical action when there's abuse without taking emotional action. So my response to anger is usually fear, and then self diminishment. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes you are in danger, or somebody's doing something that's just unethical, and that nobody should do to anyone. And I wonder if you can take ethical action without involving the self.
Yeah, I think that there are times where you have to, when you are either the victim of or witnessing something, abusive, and you can certainly say, stop, that's totally, to me, is totally the right thing to do. You just, so you do intervene because you don't want it to continue.
Well, and you have every right to protect your physical self.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
The question is like protecting the ego, right? Mm-hmm. That's maybe a distinction to make.
Yeah.
But even when somebody is taking aggressive action with the intention of causing you emotional or psychological harm, I feel that that's an unethical behavior if it's, going on for 40 years, for example.
Yeah. No, I think, that's a whole different category. I would never say that if you're in an abusive relationship that you should let it go on and open yourself up to it. Yeah, this is a little bit different from that. This is just something kind of like a one-off even. Not something where it's this habitual behavior that's going on and on and on. That's not healthy. So I would not recommend that at all. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because that needs to be really clear. Go ahead, Ken.
There's another aspect to the Hakim story for me, and that is that he's really dealing with the appropriate action for that moment. That's and that is there's this baby that needs to be taken care of.
That's right.
Yeah. And starting, life starts right now.
Yeah.
And now that needed to be done. And that's part of the lesson for me.
Absolutely.
Of the story.
Absolutely.
And that's the ethical action that I think.
And also turning the baby over again, and just saying,
so easily,
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is what needs to happen now.
Now, a year later, this is what needs to be done. You need to take the baby back.
Yeah.
Without any baggage.
It's clean. Yeah. So does that seem clear, Jeanette? Kind of.
Well, I think I'll, be looking at it from many angles for a long time to come. But yeah, that is helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a real distinction, I think, in that kind of thing. There's an ongoing abusive relationship. You don't just open yourself up to it. That's not the recommendation here at all. This is like somebody's just angry and responding at you angrily, and you just don't take part in it. Yeah, you just don't go there. You're not going to fight it. You're not going to fight it out. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, let's do some change.
Laurie, hang on one second. So the version that you just shared with us is a little different from the one in the chant book, and I really liked it also. So but it's not on the website, is it? That version that you just shared?
No, no, it's, you can find it online.
Okay.
He wrote a book, and that was included in it. And he has quite a lot to say about this particular story.
Thank you.
Yeah.